All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John.
And I'm Jack.
And this week we are reviewing the 1942 John Wayne classic, Flying Tigers. And I don't really know how to start off other than what do you think, Jack?
I'm just going to put that on the back burner for now. I think we need to address the big racist elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The elephant alone is hard enough to ignore. He's also racist.
Yeah, this was a hard one.
Yeah, yes, certainly had those moments. Very, very racially sensitive depictions of Chinese people.
Yeah, I really love that the only time we see Chinese people in a movie set in China is either like a soup kitchen or it's, you know, the one like runner-up precursor to Indiana Jones Short Round as the mechanic.
Which I love Short Round, God help me, but this is just
Well, if you didn't know any better, you'd be like, man, there's a whole lot of white people in China.
And this was an actual battalion too, right? Is battalion the right word? Squadron of dudes.
Yep. So their timing was kind of interesting. So they started up and got formed up before Pearl Harbor. So when they were originally planning on getting over there, they were actually breaking America's neutrality laws. But they didn't actually get up and running and see combat until after December 7th, which by that point, America was like, yeah, fucking whatever. Do whatever you want.
The gloves came off.
Yeah. They were, I forget, I can't remember if they were completely under Chinese command or if they were technically under the British, because they came in through Burma, I think.
See, what my understanding was they were given carte blanche?
Yeah,
whatever.
Basically.
Carte blanche to act however they needed to, but the government would only pay them if they kept stacking bodies. They were basically just mercenaries from what I can understand.
Yeah, they got paid a bounty for every aircraft they shut down. Which made for some really interesting kill counts for the Flying Tigers. I remember reading a book about them years and years ago, where there's this one story where basically something like 8 different Flying Tigers got rounds onto one Japanese plane, so they were all credited with 1/8 of a kill. I'm like,
interesting,
which is hilarious to think, because normally, when you get as a pilot, if you get a kill, you paint the flag of whatever country that plane came from on the side of your aircraft to denote that you got the kill.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to imagine like 1/8 of a flag being painted onto an airplane.
And there's where Grandpa shot down 1/8 of an enemy plane. Fuck you, Grandpa.
I killed 1/8 of a plane. Which is it's hilarious, but I mean, it's a tradition that stands today. It's a great time to be reviewing this film, considering America just shot down a Chinese blimp a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, the spy blimp.
Which that I love that. Not the whole thing in general, just the part where they sent an F-22 up to shoot down a blimp was hilarious to me. And literally the next day, there was a news photo that the ground crews had painted the silhouette of a blimp on the side of the F-22.
That's what I would do, at least.
It's even funnier because it is the F-22. So the F-22, the American government has spent billions of dollars developing this aircraft, purchasing them. And it's the next generation fighter. And it's only air-to-air victory is a dirigible.
For our dear listeners, aircraft and air combat is something that if you get John started on, he can go for hours.
Yeah, it's a passion of mine.
And that makes me happy hearing you talk about your passion.
But as- the thing that immediately struck me about the racist under and or overtones of this film is the music for it. It's
Oh,
like that the it like it wasn't done with a xylophone, but you know what I mean. Like it was done with an orchestra, but it's that like xylophone. Da, 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 da. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys! Like, there's better ways for us to denote that we're in China.
yeah. But how else would we know other than that musical cue?
I don't know how do maybe the opening scene where they have a picture of General Chiang Kai Shek, and it's like our boys are fighting in China. I think that suffices. Like,
Also, speaking of the soundtrack, that one part in the movie where that what did he do, that the jackass pilot, Woody, but he was getting chewed out by what's his face. Oh, was that scene where he like misses the call and the dude without the dude without depth perception has to go up and gets himself killed accidentally.
yeah,
John
he
Wayne
misses the
fires
call
him.
because he's schmoozing John Wayne's girl.
Yeah, what a real turd meister. And yeah, like he says, "You're out of here. You're fired." And then the camera zooms in on the calendar, and then there's that dramatic stab of music, and I'm like, "Oh no!" The date that will live in infamy.
That is funny, but also I can imagine how that particular moment would have been like a really
Sobering
powerful.
moment.
It would have for film goers at the time this was released, because this was released in like October of 42, so we are less than a year out from Pearl Harbor happening, and that's the equivalent of like a 9/11 movie coming out 6 months, coming out as a summer blockbuster the
I
following
was gonna
year.
say, like, imagine John Wayne leaning back in his chair, and the towers are on fire in the distance.
It's just, but the thing is that they were at this time. So we had already won the Battle of Midway. We had won Guadalcanal, um, but those were so recent. Um,
And
immediately after Pearl Harbor, this was really the only group that we had. Well, correction, we had there was a squadron of American flyers that had joined the RAF during the Battle of Britain, but um, Hollywood was short on material to use immediately following Pearl Harbor. So
and building off that note, like we had 6 months of defeats after Pearl Harbor. We lost Guam, we lost the Philippines, we lost
wait,
we lost
we
another island I forget the name of.
we lost Wake Island.
Pavuvu, or did we even have Pavuvu?
I don't remember, but yeah, no, like immediately after Pearl Harbor, we lost a lot of shit,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Oh,
didn't. If you think about it, so Pearl Harbor happened in December. We didn't actually have a quote unquote victory or a strike back until April of the following year.
Guadalcanal.
No, that was when the Doolittle raid was,
Uh,
which we also have 30 Seconds Over Tokyo on our list. So if
hmm,
I remember correctly, that film's a lot better than this one.
I've never heard of it.
Oh, it's actually it's quite good. If it's been a minute, but it's based on a book by one of the guys who actually participated. But um, it was another wartime movie made about an event that happened during the war.
Interesting. That'll be fun to cover. But that's I may be jumping ahead, but that's sacrifice at the end where he like
I,
hides.
that made me so mad for a variety of reasons. So obviously, John Wayne is our main character as Pappy. Um, But the character of Woody, who's played by John Carroll, which I don't know if you would agree, but John Carroll kind of reminds me of Billy Zane a little bit.
I never in
Maybe
1,000 years would have made that connection, John.
maybe it's just the mustache. I don't know. Um, but so this entire movie is just a showcase of Woody being a dickhead, and we'll have plenty of other examples to talk about it. But the entire movie, we've been given no reason to like Woody, and then he volunteers for this super dangerous mission to take out a railway and supply train, and so they successfully take out the railway, but they miss the train. And then, like, in a moment of self-sacrifice, he tells John Wayne to jump out, and then he crashes his plane purposely into the train, and that like absolves him of every shitty thing he's done up to this point. I was like, no, it doesn't. Like,
He did get that guy killed inadvertently, mind you, but he's still dead.
let's see, he lost a plane.
Yeah, those don't grow on trees.
No, so he lost a plane. He hits on John Wayne's girl. He gets another squadron member killed because he's busy hitting on John Wayne's girl. And then we're supposed to forgive him because he took out a supply train, which at this point in the world, he took out a supply train. The Japanese have plenty of other trains, and like, let's be honest, it doesn't take a lot of effort to rebuild a railway, as we've seen in the Ukrainian conflict right now.
It's still a considerable setback. I will give him that. So.
No, yeah, it's a hindrance, but it's not like he flew his plane, like he didn't kamikaze himself into an aircraft carrier or something.
I mean, I will give him some points, like,
and then John Wayne at the end like gives his scarf to his replacement. He's like, take care of that kid. It belonged to a great flyer.
And then the alarm goes off and they rush. Which, as brief as it was, that was kind of a somber note to end on, was it not? Like, there is no pomp and circumstance on their return. It's just another mission. Because this is still early. Like, it reminds the audience, this is still early in the war. And at the time of this release, it reminds the audience, this shit's still going on. Like, there is no riding off into the sunset for this movie.
Yeah, it's not a happy ending. So I did appreciate that. Like, it's the war marches on, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. But had you ever heard of the Flying Tigers prior to this?
Kind of. So when I used to be president of Games Club back at the college me and DP went to, USD. And one of the campaigns we had running was something called Weird War 2.
Which Weird War 1?
Exactly like Weird War 1, Supernatural World War 2. And one of the and I didn't really have a character in mind, but the character the DM rolled up for me was a former flying tiger with a full shoulder and arm tattoo of a dragon that the Chinese called the White Dragon.
That'd make for a pretty sick comic book.
Yeah, that was a pretty badass character, if you ask me. Never did finish that campaign, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Flying Tigers are interesting. They're a very recognizable name. Not to mention, they have one of the most probably famous pieces of nose art for aircraft. The shark mouth for airplanes.
Is that? And that's where it's from?
Yep, they're the ones that started that.
Huh. Well, I'll be damned. That I didn't know. The more you learn.
Really, really dope airplane art.
Yeah. Still being used all these
the
years
guy that
later.
Came up with it is super pissed he didn't get the trademark on
it. Yeah, he would have been set.
But what did you think of the combat scenes in this movie?
Oh my god. They killed the same guy 4 times. And like every time somebody got shot in the cockpit, they would always cover their face and blood would pour down as if they hit the blood packets they hid in the palms. But
It's ketchup packets, Jack.
whatever. Chocolate syrup packs shows up better on the black and white.
That was something that I found to be crazy. Is like there are definitely tons of instances in World War One and World War Two where pilots are actually hit by gunfire when they're getting shot down, but for the most
7
part,
times.
Yeah, for the most part, when an airplane's getting shot down, is because the engine took damage, or some structural component of the actual aircraft took a hit. Um, I just it was weird seeing it, like almost like every airplane getting shot down was personalized because every time the pilot got shot.
Yeah. Were they just that good at shots? Where they get through the cockpit 10 times?
It's just more dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a little difficult for me to watch because obviously it would interchange between the hold on a second, I need to tell my dog to shut the fuck up.
Tux is being a silly goose.
So they would intersperse it with like an image of a mock-up of a cockpit with John Wayne in it, and the like movie screen behind it with the moving background, even though the like what he's sitting in is stationary. And then they would cut that in with like footage of actual aircraft, and then like shots of models.
Which, this is 1942. I'm not expecting the moon in terms of effects.
But maybe a little more effort.
Maybe a bit more. Maybe. So what you drinking?
Purple Rain.
Lucky.
I only just found out today that there's actually a brewing company called Flying Tiger Brewing. And I was like, man, that would have been perfect for today, but they're located not here, so.
Yeah, I just finished my drink, a nice hot chocolate with marshmallows.
Kinky.
I know, right? No alcohol whatsoever. Yeah, I know, I'm surprised too. I also have some Kool-Aid with me.
Ooh, Kool-Aid.
Grape Kool-Aid, my personal favorite. And you know those Mio things for flavoring?
Yeah.
I squeezed some of that into it because I was feeling a bit naughty. Tastes amazing.
That is quite the combination.
I know, I'm a chef. Ooh, also I put some cumin and cinnamon in my hot chocolate.
Make it a little spicier.
Tastier. Yeah, one of my go-to fall drinks is hot apple cider and with a little bit of cumin sprinkled into it. I call it a cumin cider.
I remember having that last time I saw you.
Wow, what a great audience. Remember to tip your wait staff.
I remember it being quite tasty.
Yeah, it's really good. Humorous name aside. So, another what else is there to talk about this movie? Oh yeah, the Chinese waiter offering him chop suey. That's not a Chinese dish. The Chinese consider that an American dish.
Like General Tso's chicken?
Yeah, like they consider that and fortune cookies and chop suey all American inventions.
Wait, you mean to tell me that 1940s Hollywood didn't do their research about what is culturally correct in China?
Yeah, sorry to burst your bubble on that one, but someone had to.
Well, it's not like the American public would know any difference at this point.
Or care.
Well, I mean, all that matters is that John Wayne goes in and kicks ass, and
We sell those war bonds.
sells the war bonds and does the white savior thing.
Oh yes, that. Oh man, Wikipedia even described this as an unabashed propaganda film.
Which, here's the thing: I shouldn't say there's nothing wrong with a propaganda film. There is, but in this context, like, I'm not like there's a good chunk of films from the 40s are propaganda films.
Yep. And who could forget the Great Dictator? Isn't that on our list?
I don't think it is, but we can add it.
Oh, we should. That's close enough to a war film.
It's just propaganda films today are much better at hiding the fact they're a propaganda film.
Yeah, the public is kind of, I don't want to say more wary of propaganda, but they're more subtle about it, or at least try to be. American Sniper.
There was nothing. Yeah.
Because let's be honest, that was pretty much a propaganda film.
Yeah, it was. And, like, don't get me wrong, the story of Chris Kyle is a very interesting story, but yeah, there's some problems with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we're talking about.
That's a story for another day. We're talking about Flying Tigers of 1942.
I've seen that movie once, and it's a buddy of mine. It's one of his favorite films.
What? Wait, didn't we go to it together?
No, we didn't go see that together.
That was Lone Survivor that we all went to see.
Another rah America film, but I much prefer Lone Survivor to American Sniper.
Better movie.
But I digress. This film isn't subtle at all. Like, even the foreshadowing is really, really, really terrible. Like, the make sure you don't open your parachute too soon, or else this is a John Wayne quote. This is not me saying it. This is John Wayne quote. Our brown friends will have a nasty habit of shooting you while you're hanging there.
Yeah. Yeah. Which harkens back to the big racist elephant in the room.
Which, like, yeah, John Wayne was a racist, but I mean, even that was a bit much.
Yeah, there's a lot of problematic John Wayne moments that would certainly raise an eyebrow or 10.
I can't wait to see how he does in the Conqueror.
Oh God, we have to watch that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I hate you, but
to be fair, like, yes, John Wayne is very problematic, but I have a lot of, like, nostalgia and like, emotions wrapped up in John Wayne, because my grandfather was a huge John Wayne fan. And so much of my childhood, whenever I was visiting with him and what have you, that was what was always on TV. So this is probably like the 5th or 6th time I've seen this movie. This is the first time I've seen it through a grown-up lens, though. But yeah, I have... John Wayne is problematic, and there's a lot of issues with him, and there's a lot of issue with his films, but, like, John Wayne films still hit me differently. Like, I still have, like, he did produce some good films. Like, let's not deny that. He did the OG True Grit, which was really good. But that being said, I understand I'm looking at his particular films through a lens of nostalgia because of my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this dates me a little bit, but my grandfather, for one of my birthdays, gave me his VHS copy of Sands of Iwo Jima, and it was still the black and white version, not the colorized version.
That does
And
date you.
it does. And I think that was either I got that when I was like 5 or 6, maybe. Um, and I legit wore that VHS out. Like it became unplayable.
Dang.
Yeah, but
That's
I can't
actually
wait.
impressive.
It is. I can't wait to review Sands of Iwo Jima, um, for a whole variety of other reasons. But I think Sands of Iwo Jima is probably one of John Wayne's absolute, if not his best film, one of his top 5
I see.
out of the 4 billion he was in.
Mm-hmm.
And you could take that to heart, Pilgrim.
Pilgrim.
It's interesting too because John Wayne did so many World War II films. So in this World War II film, we see him. I want to say he's like late 30s, early 40s, maybe, and he's probably late 30s. But by the time he does Sands of Iwo Jima, he's like in his mid 40s to almost 50, I think, something like that. So it's interesting to see him in all these different roles in the same war, but he's aged so vastly different.
Everyone is John Wayne.
I know. This is young, beautiful John Wayne.
What was he like,
And
35 when he made this?
uh let me
What
see.
does what does Goggle tell you?
He was so he was born in 1907. So he would have been 30, 35 was how old he was. And by the time he did Sansa Iwo Jima, he would have been like 45.
Huh. The more
Native
you
of
know.
Iowa.
Ew.
There's literally a town in Iowa. I forget what town it is, but that's their claim to fame is that John Wayne was born there, and they have a giant billboard for it.
Well, yeah, I guess one thing happened in Iowa that they can talk about.
That and the Great Corn Drought of 1902.
Ooh.
I forgot how to fucking talk there, but
Yeah, this I so we were just talking about the effects, and maybe we're a bit spoiled with the effects and movie magic that we've seen in the 100+ years we've had cinema. But I don't know what the average job in 1940 was, but it can't have been too glamorous at home. Just go to work at the factory and then see this. This would have blown my goddamn mind.
oh yeah, definitely.
I would have spent the what pennies the factory paid me for my non-union job on war bonds.
But if you think about it, the film we reviewed last week, All Quiet on the Western Front, which came out a decade earlier, had infinitely better effects.
Point taken. But I think we brought this up at the review there, where they completely cut out the whole gas scenes. When,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but was that not a big deal in the book? It was a big deal in the war itself, and a big part of World War I history. And to not even see a gas mask on screen is a bit weird. But I think that was
Yeah.
I. I don't know the reasoning why. It might have been something as simple as time, but it also could have been effects. Like maybe they couldn't get it to look right on screen.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings up an interesting anecdote. So, Howard Hughes?
Yeah, the billionaire guy that
Yeah. So
the aviator.
yeah, he, I wonder if The Aviator should, I don't think The Aviator really counts as a war film.
Eh.
Yeah. Anyways, one of the scenes in that movie, it covers him making the movie Hell's Angels, which is a World War One aerial film, and it literally shows like he had to postpone filming for like weeks because when they were filming it, they were using real aircraft, but there was nothing to give a concept of how fast the aircraft were actually going. So they postponed shooting a lot of scenes until there were clouds, because then there would be actually something in the background to show you how fast the airplanes are flying. So I could
Huh.
imagine that doing some sort of gas attack scene would pose some sort of difficulty or challenge.
Yeah, maybe that's just us expecting too much from old movies, but what was the budget for this?
For this particular movie?
Yes, the budget for it. I looked it up while I was watching it, but I can't for the life of me remember. And I didn't look up the adjusted for inflation.
It was just shy of $1 million.
Huh.
And it made a pretty good return. Its return was 1.5, so also got nominated for 2 or 3 Oscars.
I
Didn't
mean,
win any, but
I can kind of see why.
it was nominated.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see why it was nominated, but I can definitely see why it didn't win.
I could totally see why this was a really popular film in
Oh yeah,
1942.
very arousing, very chest pump.
This is about as 1940s as a film can get, especially with like the mid-Atlantic accents too. Like,
Yep.
okay, Pappy.
Okay, Tuppy, be careful with that. That belonged to a good aviator.
I used to know a girl in Cincinnati.
That I forgot to mention it earlier, but that pilot, when he's going down in his little parachute and the guy shoots him just like Pappy warned, that was quite possibly the laziest death scene I've ever seen in a movie, but there wasn't a whole lot he could do with that.
I loved how lazy that scene was. And then at the end of the movie, we get another parachute scene, when John Wayne jumps out of the airplane when Woody is sacrificing
Woody
himself.
tricks him.
I love the scene where John Wayne is hanging in his parachute, because it is one of those scenes where you can be like, this guy is in a studio who's just hanging in a harness with like a moving screen behind him, and like there's obviously a fan blowing his perfectly coiffed hair. It's just
and the way he noticed the blood on his sleeve, that he checked to see if he didn't have a wound, he didn't notice, and then he realized it was Woody's. That son of a bitch tricked me.
Those bastards lied to me.
Yeah, exact same energy. But yeah, it's there are better war movies.
Oh, absolutely. I guess my question for you is, did you enjoy it though?
I had a decent time with it, and I wouldn't say. Oh, and another thing, they may have been like, I don't know, hired employees at said airfield, or just like workers. But what was up with those 2 Chinese ladies that randomly looked at the sky and smiled every time every time they saw the flying tigers? Did they just live at the airfield? Were they farmers in a local field? Who are they?
It's their country, Jack.
Well, I know it's their country, but those 2 specifically, damn it.
They are there to remind you that you are in China.
I wanted to mention, I did like that scene at that orphanage where it's kind of a bit of a redemption scene for Woody, where he shows he's not the jackass that we think he is. He does that one trick, walks over to the nurse. I hope they're happy. That's the only trick I know.
I should rephrase this. I love the scene where they're outside of the like soup kitchen orphanage line, and there's an air raid that comes in. I don't love the fact that an orphanage soup kitchen got bombed. But this was one of the moments where you could see like a good chunk of money went into practical effects. But it's like we get the loud whistle of a bomb dropping, and then like one solitary truck blows up, but it doesn't. The truck doesn't move.
It's just the stuff in the back.
Yeah, it doesn't. The truck doesn't get destroyed. Literally, it's just like there's a fireball that erupts out of the back of the truck, like it's a fireworks stand.
Yeah, and it was very
This is
clearly
war, you see.
Like even before it happened, I was just watching it, waiting. Like, a predetermined charge is gonna go. Oh, there it goes. And another thing,
that was the Oppenheimer atom bomb moment of this film.
Yep. Christopher Nolan's grandpa worked on this film. I don't know if that's true or not. I just made that up. But one thing I really should mention before I wheel out the Rotten Tomatoes page for this, I want to see more, or at least another better done World War II movie in China. That's like a part of World War II.
We have a couple of Chinese World War II movies on our list.
And I was going to bring it up. They're the country that lost the second most people.
Right.
But no one ever talks about them.
I think we have Flowers of War, which is a Christian Bale film, which talks about the rape of Nanking.
Ooh, sounds heavy.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen some clips, and it does look pretty intense. But you're right. I wish there would be some more movies about that particular area. I wish we could get a modern adaptation of this film. Maybe one with a budget big enough so that Woody could take off in an airplane that actually has bullets in
it. And not, damaged by termites.
That was say what you want, but that was a great line. What happened to the airplane? Termites. God, the do we remember what that one Chinese mechanic's name was?
No.
It's a shame because honestly, he deserves more credit than he gets in this film.
I'm pretty sure it was the same actor that played the waiter too, but I'm not certain.
America was too busy throwing all the other Asian people into camps.
God. Wow, yeah. Oofta.
For our listeners who don't know, immediately after Pearl Harbor, America started throwing Asian people, specifically Japanese people, into internment camps.
And fun fact, that's George Takei's earliest memories being hauled into those camps. I don't know about his earliest memory, but certainly a memory that affected him during his childhood. Man,
it's terrible, and it's truly a shame because if I remember correctly, I think there's a couple of guys of Japanese heritage who fought on the European theater who were some of the most heavily decorated individuals in the war.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What were they called? I know exactly who you're talking about, but they fucked so hard they averaged like 2 Purple Hearts a person and a Bronze Star.
Yeah, there was like an entire battalion that was made up of people of Japanese heritage that got sent to Europe.
Was it Europe or the Pacific Theater? I thought it was the Pacific.
I think it was Europe because racism reasons. We don't want them to go over to the other side.
Yeah. The 442nd Go for Broke was their motto.
442nd Regimental Combat Team.
Oh, yeah. They fought primarily in the European theater. Huh.
Yeah, they're an impressive guys. They deserve their own war movie, which they probably do, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, we need to do some research after this.
They have a pretty cool patch.
Yeah. In less than 2 years, more than 4,000 Purple Hearts and 4,000 bronze medals were awarded.
That
Christ.
is truly impressive, actually.
Ooh, 21 of its members were awarded the Medal of Honor. That is ridiculous. Wow. That is something. Definitely need to research if those guys have a movie about them. They certainly deserve it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They deserve one more than this film deserves a sequel, which I don't know if you knew this. They were planning on making a sequel to this movie during the war.
I did read about that. Flying Tigers 2, Fly Harder.
Too fly, too furious.
And it just starts.
This time, it's with bullets.
I can't wait for the Flying Tigers cinematic universe. Man.
Turns out Woody didn't actually die, and he has like a Superman return arc.
Yeah, he has a Winter Soldier arc where the Japanese take him prisoner and make him an ace pilot. Woody? Who the hell is Woody?
It's me, Pappy.
God. But
before we get to the review, I have one last thing we need to touch on of the
many
problematic things in this film.
Oh, and there were a lot.
Our first introduction of Woody meeting John Wayne's nurse friend is she is taking a bath as behind a door, and she thinks she's talking to John Wayne, and Woody just walks in and like makes himself at home, and she comes out and is like startled. Is like, that is the creepiest shit ever. Like,
oh, but it was different back in those days. Guys could be as creepy as they wanted to girls.
Oh my god.
I'm being facetious, but yeah, you're right. I don't remember that, honestly.
It was maybe like a 30-second moment in the film.
I don't know. That whole love triangle is just I ignored it the best I could.
Well, you needed to have a love story in this film because at this point you have to remember at this point a lot of your movie-going audience in America at this point is really old guys, young children, and women, because most fighting age males are shipped away.
Yeah.
So you need a love story to put the lady butts in the scene or in seats.
Yeah. It doesn't mean it was the best love story I've ever seen. That still goes to Twilight.
Yes. Twilight. We should review that.
That's a war movie. It's a war between the vampires and the werewolves.
And man.
It's a literal man versus beast. Versus.
Say it out loud. You're a vampire.
I don't know if I'm ever.
There's a scene where they show the Civil War in that movie, or one of those. There is. Yeah, one of the characters in Twilight became a vampire during the American Civil War.
Huh. That I didn't know. I guess I didn't pay attention enough when my roommates watched that in college.
Miranda makes me heckle watch it with her at least once a year.
Oh, that's adorable.
I know.
I mean, hell, if I'm ever frustrated with you, maybe I'll put that up. Ooh. Maybe we could do like one of those. I don't know. Maybe you, me, and Randa could do a little live watch sometime. We should
set up like a Discord or something.
Or I could come visit you.
That would be nice. I have a guest bedroom now.
Yeah, I heard that. But anyway, before we get too off topic, I'd like to talk about the Rotten Tomatoes for this. Okay. We usually talk about the score before this, right? What we would give this, and we think of some cheeky review. What do you propose the review should be for numbers?
Scarves.
uh,
1 to 5 dead guy scarves.
I'll give this 2 dead guy scarves out of 5. That feels a bit harsh, but I'm gonna stick to it.
I I'm going to agree with you. Um, Look, it's a 1940s film. It's about as 1940s as a film can get. There's not a ton of substance to it. The effects leave a lot to be desired, and honestly, the story arc is kind of lazy. So, but it is a. It's not a classic in the same way All Quiet is, obviously, but it's still a interesting window into the time period. So I'll give it 2 scarves.
All right. So let's see. The critics gave this a 67%,
No
and
way.
and the audience gave it a 69 giggity percent. That's the sex number. So yeah, that's Flying Tigers, and I don't agree with either of these.
No,
I
no,
don't
I
agree with
don't.
either of these.
Now my thing, I'm not going to apologize for making you watch this. Like,
What
here's the thing.
wasn't gonna
I
ask. I'm
I
glad
I
I did.
did I did enjoy it for as bad as it was. Like I said, I have a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in John Wayne films.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a shame. It's kind of like Wind Talkers, where you have an interesting subject matter and you deserve a really good film about it, but this is really all we have. I mean, there's a couple of like released straight to DVD films about the Flying Tigers, but like I want I want major motion picture budget today financed film with Tom Hardy as Pappy kind of film.
Happy.
But I would say this is worth, if you are looking to get the vibe for 1940s media, this is worth a watch. I can't say this is a film that everybody should go out and like. This isn't a come and see, obviously, where for that one, the way I described it is like everybody needs to watch it at least once. This is not a film that needs to be watched at least once. If you like John Wayne, or if you're looking to just peer into the past, check the film out. But
Yeah.
you you're not missing much if you don't watch this.
This movie's like the poster boy of product of its time,
Right.
because it was made in a very timely manner to relate to the audiences, the current events of the goings on. And it certainly has its problematic themes, as we've already explored, which date the film, but that's kind of the point now, isn't it?
Right. I mean, not every old film is going to age well or
No.
age to be a classic like some of the films we've reviewed up to this point.
Well, I think that about does it for this. Any other thoughts you'd like to share?
No, I think that about does it. I know it's your turn to pick, so what do we have coming up next, Jack?
We have the 2007 classic 300 up next.
This is Sparta.
You'll find plenty of both down there. Yeah, King Leonidas, the suspiciously Scottish king.
It's kind of like when Russell Crowe played Noah in that one Bible movie.
I mean, who's gonna say he wasn't New Zealand or?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I saw 300 in theaters the weekend it came out.
Hmm.
Just 12-year-old John hanging out watching guys be speared to death and naked Gerard Butler butt.
Yeah. Who could resist?
I'm looking forward to it. 300, I'm not ashamed to say this. 300 is a movie that I watch at least once a year, if not more. It is the kind of movie that, like, if I have the house to myself for an evening or like a weekend, I will go and like cook myself a steak out on the grill and like grab a 6-pack and then just sit down and, you know, enjoy the show. So I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a how did you put it, a pork chop movie?
Yeah, there was a podcast long ago that has since ended. It was called Friendly Fire, which I highly recommend. The episodes are still up on it. And it was one of the things that inspired me to start this show with you, is because there was a hole in my life since that show ended. Um, but yeah, they coined the phrase pork chop film, which is like, is it a great film? Not really, but is it a fun film? Yes.
And
So
that's just the beauty of it all, you know? Fun movies.
it is. Do you have anything else?
Nothing else.
All right, sounds good. Well, if you enjoyed the show, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you would like some additional content, memes, and whatnot, you can follow us either over on Instagram or Facebook at the Armchair Commanders Podcast. Um, Additionally, if you do enjoy the show, share it with a friend who likes war movies.
Absolutely.
We like to hear from you guys. We've actually have gotten some private messages and whatnot, and it's always great to hear feedback and know that we're not talking to nobody. So, with that being said, I hope you all have a good morning, day, or evening, whatever it may be, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.